How's everyone doing today? Hopefully everyone's doing well. So today's vlog is gonna be a filler series, which means it's a break from my documentation vlog for 2024. So it's gonna runs from 8th of April till 19th of April, and hopefully by the 22nd of April I will come back with a regular programming of just vlogging my 40th year in 2024. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy this. So it's almost 8 o'clock now. Still on the Sunday, 7th of April. We're almost there. This is my. Well, technically, it's the 7th. No, this is the 9th video, but technically for me it's the 7th video because I split that remembering my 20s into 3 parts, which I should have done for remembering my 30s while I was still sitting in front of that in the middle of a street. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna talk about what my hopes and dreams are in my 40s, whether I still have one or not. I think that is something that I don't even want to think about recently, even up to recently. I feel like it's such a huge question. When I was in my 20s, it was so much easier to say that, right? Like, because, excuse me, I had this belief, this absolute certainty when I was in my 20s that I was gonna make so much money, that I was gonna be really, really rich. I don't know where that confidence come from. To be honest, I have no idea. And, I think you're just being young and arrogant. And then 20 years later, the life kicked you in the butt and try to figure out where you want to go in life. I don't have that optimism anymore. I think now my goals are a lot more practical, but I felt like still betrayed though with that certainty. I felt betrayed by God, by the world, by the universe. It's like I was so confident that I was gonna be really rich. I did not know how. I thought like I was gonna have my own business or businesses, and that's how I'm gonna get rich. I didn't know how to do it. I kept looking around to figure out, like, even back then I think there was a lot of joint ventures, finding money on the internet because it was still early on, but I wasn't really involved. I was outside in the real world where it never felt real for me. Anyway, so my hopes and dreams for being in my 40s now is quite practical and it's quite sad. I just want to have a lot of money. Like, of course, like the goal, the Lulu is to have millions and millions of dollars, but I know even having $10 million is Australian, of course, not US dollars. Australian $10 million is middle class he. It's not even, you're not part of the high net worth rich people, for sure. Because the average home that is so shitty is around 1.23 million. And that's really shitty 2-bedroom apartments. And I don't think you're gonna get that even in the near, like, 6 kilometers within the city. So it's not even in the inner suburb. You're gonna get it like either on the outer suburbs of Sydney, for that price. And it's gonna be a lot of mold, probably a lot of water issues, water damage issues. I would be expecting that for sure. A lot of, I'm just trying to give you an illustration of how bad the situation is in Sydney and how expensive it is just to live a very poor lifestyle. Like, so $10 million is not gonna be that rich and glamorous lifestyle. It probably just going to give you a little bit of peace of mind. That you're probably not gonna be homeless for a little bit unless all the fees are going to eat you up. Council fees, strata fees, the bills, how they keep jacking up the price even though when people are in panic mode of not having any jobs, any money. I know, right? This is what happens when you turn 40. All your perceptions about the world has become so jaded. Um, but yeah, so that's like just 10 million. It seems like a Dululu goal, but in reality, 10 million, I don't know if I can ever get 10 million, to be honest. Maybe I would just, my aim is to have enough money so if I get kicked out, kicked out from where I live now, I can sort of buffer that period of homelessness with some comfort. And I know that sounded very pathetic, but it's yeah, that's the reality. um, and not panic as much and not go into flight and fight, because I would feel like I have enough money to cushion myself through this particular period so that I can find somewhere to rent. And there's, rental cost of living crisis, and get through that period. So that's the practical goal, is to have enough money. I don't know, but even that feels like a delulu feelings for me. Like, how much do I need to be comfortable to get through, like, a homeless situation, for example? 100,000, 200,000. How am I gonna get that much money? And I feel like my aspiration for being in my 40s does not really extend beyond the survival goals for now, because I felt like when I was in my 20s and I was having this big, huge goal of traveling the world. I traveled Europe for 6 weeks, and that was enough. That was enough for me. After a while, you kind of just like, it's either you have like an historic site when you're traveling, and then you just see old stuff, old architecture from, the days where that place was still in the golden age. Or you go to places where there's a lot of shopping around, and you can just shop and just feel a different way of how a different culture and different income levels experience money. So I think like you can do travel that way, like either through distance or through socioeconomic backgrounds. And travel is not great unless you have money, to be honest, because you don't really see a lot. Like, how you are limited at home because of your lack of money is also how you're going to be limited overseas from your lack of money. You will only have access to public places and stuff like that. You don't have any access to, you know, into their society. And the society will be depending on whether you can access. Oh my god, what are these? Whether you can access the spaces that's given to you. So I'm not really dreaming of traveling, to be honest, unless I have finances to do so. And I think like if I pull out my hat, and like if I take off my hat of being practical, so if I take off my practical hat, I would, and put my Delulu hat on, I would definitely say like I would try to make $10 million Australian. So maybe about, how much is that? About 600,000 US dollars. And I know our currency is pretty shitty. And I'm starting, my mind is starting to go because I've been doing this for like 8 straight hours. So yeah, if I put on my Delulu hat, I would definitely say, no, not $600,000, like $6 million probably, US dollars. Yeah. So that would be my Delulu thing by the end of, maybe by the end of the decade, like when I'm about 49. I wish I would have that $10 million, because by that time, I don't think $10 million US, Australian would be a lot. I reckon inflation would hit the roof. I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe we would have World War III by this time, and maybe we would have. I have no idea. Maybe like the financial system is going to be so different, Because I remember when I was 20 years old, one of my really biggest wishes was to get one of those oxygen O2 phone. It was basically a smartphone, but it wasn't a smartphone. It was just a phone where you have a stylus and then you can just tap it with the stylus. So it's like a version of a smartphone. And I was like, that was on my like, oh, goal, like manifestation list. And now everyone has a, smartphones, and everyone can just tap on their screen for like as little as $200, while then it was like $1,000 per phone or something, and you have to work your ass off to get one. So I never know what's going to happen in 10 years time, right? Like in 10 years ago, just got into YouTube. No, I got into K-pop again for a second time in my life. And I got reintroduced, well, no, I got introduced to YouTube, the YouTube culture, the YouTube contents. And I wanted to make like a vlogs for my 30th birthday, like for a whole 30th year. I didn't manage to do that, and now I'm doing it as my 40th year. So I don't know what's going to happen in 9 years, 10 years time, because with technology, with the instability of the political climate, I would just not say that like I just want to make $10 million. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, and hopefully I'm not gonna be homeless. I would have a home under my own name. Let it be on the lease or on the rent, whatever it is. I know, like, it seems like so old, and yet my goals are so small. I felt like this is a goal that you should have had when you were in your 20s, have your own place, but I guess when you don't realize you're autistic in a lot of things, and you don't realize that you also have an autoimmune condition, same like your parents, a lot of things gone wrong. And when you do it on your own, without much support, you just have to adjust your life goals. And that said, I'm actually not all bad when it comes to what I have done so far. Like, I don't feel bad about it, even though it's quite little. It's not a lot as I expected to be. I'm not like a big corporate director or a CEO, which I was aiming for when I was younger in my 20s. Like, oh, I want to be a boss, like the top boss. I want to own like 10 businesses. I want to franchise those businesses. I want to have a life coaching business. That happened one in Sydney. I wrote it down as well, like on my journals. I'm gonna have one office in Sydney, and then I'm gonna have one in London, and one in LA, and one in New York. Things I did when I was in my 20s. And that's how we're gonna do it. And I would cry as I was journaling because I'm in tune with my emotion. Now it's just easy. Food, home, money, and health, of course. But yeah, that's my aspirations. Thanks for listening to me rambling, guys. I will see you in the next episode. Hopefully, my last for this 2 weeks period. I'm gonna be talking about my insecurities in my 40s, which you probably already heard so far anyway. But yeah, hopefully you join me for the last one, and hopefully on Monday, 22nd of April, we would go back to regular programming, or I will update you on community posts if otherwise.